But as I urged the group last night, remind yourself this morning there is a clear distinction between the root of truth that God has given and the practice of that truth that people end up doing. They are not necessarily consistent. And where genuine love abounds, the Spirit of God is present. We know that. But I said to my friends, whatever happened to walking in the light? God says it will honor Him. In fact, it will cement His creatorship of you. He has the most remarkable promises to those who recognize Him as Creator. And yet as I listen to the sophisticated arguments, I say to myself, why be a Christian if you're simply looking for a way to get around what God says will glorify Him? I guess we could bring up the area of relationships, couldn't we? I was meeting over Christmas with a group of young adults in Australia. Melbourne, Australia, my home city. These young adults asked me if we could have a Sabbath afternoon meeting. I'd been preaching in the morning. I said, sure. I said, what do you want to talk about? Well, they said, well, don't get into any of those boring areas. I said, like what? Well, they said, anything to do with our lifestyles. Oh, I said, I was hoping that might be one of the areas because I think I would find that anything but boring, knowing what their lifestyles are like. No, they said, talk about love. I said, okay, we can talk about love. And we had a very interesting afternoon, and the afternoon finished, and they said, we're having a meeting tonight. It's a social evening. Would you like to come? I said, well, I am rather a sociable individual, and my sister was urging me to come, and I said, well, perhaps I'll come. What kind of social evening, though, am I coming to? Might be nice to know in advance. I mean, how should I dress? Because I had other things in mind too. And they said, oh, it's just a group of young adults relaxing. I said, well, could you be a little more specific? And they said, well, why are you so anxious to get some details? Are you concerned? I said, quite frankly, yes. I'd like to know what I'm coming to. Spell it out to me. I'm a big boy. Well, they said, they'll all be Adventists and all Christians. I said, well, that is truly reassuring to me. But what are these Christians going to be doing? Well, they said, you probably noticed we're a little reluctant to tell you because we're fearful you may not come. I said, I am a big boy. I can make that decision for myself, whether I wish to come or not, but I can only do it if you'll give me the facts. So finally, somebody spoke up and said, well, there's going to be an open bar. I said, oh. Of course, I was saying to myself, well, that's one way to raise your spirits. But I said, any other little details I should? And it turned out that the whole evening was a dance night. Not that that necessarily offended me, but it was having to drag this information out of them. And they said, well, this is typical of our evenings. You are coming, aren't you? And I was really on the spot now because my sister was sitting there looking at me going like this. And I said, I guess I'm not coming. I'm sorry. I really would enjoy a good social evening, but I know from my own past life that that's not my kind of social living. And it just left a big question in my mind. And that word popped up again, fudging. There is no clear definition. There's no objective standard of right and wrong anymore. We've bought into that magnificent philosophy. If it feels good, do it. Situation ethics. How are you, by the way? Eaten any fudge lately? Would Elijah's message prick your conscience if you heard it? Choose ye this day. You all know from the many times we've explored it scripturally that people become unstable and ultimately lose hope and their hold on God, not because they've chosen the world, but because they maintain one foot in the church and the other in the world. It's the most disastrous condition we can ever put ourselves in. And if you're going to fudge, my advice to you is go all the way. Do not make a profession of Christianity. You will put yourself at incredible risk. And many, of course, did not hear Elijah. Second point, look at verse 30. First point, I hope it's clear. Those who have the spirit and power of Elijah have a straight message. They call sin by its right name. They're not into fudging and glossing over the distinction between right and wrong, righteousness and unrighteousness, holiness and unholiness. Those things are clear in their mind. And do you know why they're clear? Because the mind of God is in them. And God's mind is perfectly clear on these matters.